Wonderful to have you all here today. I'll be managing the Q&A throughout this webinar, so if you have a question at any point, please feel free to write it down. We will hold some time at the end to answer all these questions.
Thank you. Before I introduce our panelists, I want to give you a little background for this webinar series. Last month, there was kind of an avalanche of bad news about students losing internship opportunities all across the country due to the pandemic. And in the middle of all that, a reporter from the Wall Street Journal wrote a story about featuring students and organizations in DC who were making remote internships work. Many of the students and employers who were interviewed for that article were from our GAP or Washington semester programs. And so we thought it would be helpful to bring students and parents in to hear from employers and students to hear how these new remote internships are working. This afternoon, we have 4 DC employers who are supervising our students this summer. We're really happy to have William Cunningham, who's the CEO and founder of Creative Research Solutions. We have Diane Irving, Director of Human Resources at the National Academy of Public Administration. We have Garnet Robbins Bauman with A Just Future. And we have John Sherwood, who's Naval historian from Naval History and Heritage Command. As Adam mentioned earlier, we also have Amy Morel-Bijo, our Director of Experiential Education, who works with students and employers to facilitate these internships. So thanks to everyone for taking the time to be here today. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy now to talk a little more in detail about our internships.
Great. Thanks so much, Terrell. For a little more background on the program that you're learning about, here we are at American University within the School of Professional and Extended Studies. We're attached to the long history of our, I guess you could call it our mother program, the Washington semester. So for nearly 75 years, we've been supporting students in experiential education. We've had this track record of success that builds on about 50,000 alumni and growing, the likes of which include Lori Lightfoot, Donna Shalala, Paul Ryan, and Politics, America Ferrera, and so many others who credit that experience that they gain when it comes to the work that they're doing in an internship. This program is transformative. Our program maintains contacts with roughly 3,000 employers in our network. And in my role, I'm the conduit between employers and students. And I always help to make sure that there's a constant flow of information so that students who are in Washington semester, our GAP, GAP Plus, and mentorship programs, all the programs within our division can gain access to this terrific history within the Washington semester program. So our spring program looked a little different. One day when we woke up in March and realized that this over 70-year history was starting to shift and look quite different, we quickly pivoted to move our program online, and with success with the spring students, roughly 80% of them did move completely online without a hitch. The other 20 or so students, we were able to devise alternative plans. Now we have 100% of our summer students virtual, and this is a success. We now have built on that growing virtual success to make the program work for students to gain professional skills online in a hybrid format or in person. So we pride the program in mentoring students in a very regular way. It starts with the application process. And I work with my great colleagues, many of them who are sitting here with me on this panel, to coach students to make sure their resumes and cover letters are polished to a gleaming shine. Then we make sure that students know how to apply, what the right protocols are in reaching out to employers. We coach students on decision making and how to navigate the avenue and that back and forth discussion of the interview, and how, when an offer presents itself, how to confirm that placement. And also, when it comes to locking in the offer, we work with students with our experiential learning forum. Essentially, this is an internship learning agreement where partners, these supervisors who are on the line, who in a moment will be giving you the full color and illustration of a meaningful professional experience in internships. And we coach students to help them with their goal setting so that they know when they're working on a lobbying project on the Hill, or if they're working with the Navy or at a Just Future or creative research, and whatever group they're with, that they're maximizing the benefits, that they're getting the full exposure of what's happening in a day-to-day internship. In the fall and spring, students are 3 days per week, roughly 9 to 5, and they're able to take on a full project and learn from beginning to end how to manage in the professional world. The supervisors are true mentors who take great care and attention to meet with students at least on a weekly basis. And supervisors care about training students by maybe showing them a LinkedIn learning video, or maybe like the other week we had our professional development day. This is a classic training opportunity where students can make their LinkedIn profiles more enhanced by networking virtually. So we're teaching skills to students so they know how to land a job. So at the end of the program, students are feeling more confident about their professional competencies in communication and writing and reporting, whether they're attending a virtual meeting on the Hill, or maybe they're taking a summary and reporting on notes and what's happening, or at the American Automotive Policy Council, perhaps they're reading some industry news, summarizing the briefings and sharing it with internal colleagues, as well as members of the association, so that there's a full understanding of the industry. Bottom line, students are earning great skills. They're walking away from our program with the skills for the modern world. So they're able, in a gig economy, to land positions and then be successful in those placements. And our program gives students the credits that they need to keep moving towards their degrees that they're earning from their home schools. This is the general overview. I want to now pass the baton back to Terrell so she can tell us how this is going to work, and with more full color from the employer perspectives. Thanks, Terrell.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so I'm going to first introduce William Cunningham, who is the founder and CEO of Creative Research Solutions. William, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, talk a little bit about our experience and how we try to give meaningful internships to the students that we work with. We currently work with about 5 students. I will say that, and they're from all over the country. Let's see, Cornell, University of Maryland, AU, University of Richmond, and there's, Northwestern. And I will say that one of the things I like about the AU program is the follow-up. The fact that you have a system for evaluation that is real-time and that we can look forward to. It helps from our perspective. It also helps from the student's perspective, because they know that somebody's going to be not necessarily checking up on them, but they know that this is being recorded and it's meaningful and it's useful. Now, that's not always required for every intern, but I do find that, that's very helpful. Now, what we do, we're economists and based in DC. So we've been running our internship program for about 15 years. We attend a lot of hearings on Capitol Hill, House Financial Services Committee, Senate Banking Committee. We also attend regulatory events. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, FDIC. We'll actually go to their board meetings, many of which are open to the public, and a lot of both students and others don't know that. So we'll go and sit in. It's a great way to expose students meaningfully to the process. Here's what happens. Here's what they're talking about. I need you to evaluate what they're talking about. The other thing that we've seen is that that's a great way for them to position themselves to get jobs with these agencies. When you go to these meetings and you show up and you say, I'm an intern for creative investment research, and I'm interested in economics or financial policy, those agency people remember. When you apply, oh yes, that guy showed up at one of our hearings. So that's what we've done. Now, in terms of our current pivot, our current experience, as you know, we're working with one of your students. I don't know if I can say his name, if that's okay. Andrew Tabor, and his email address is bestinternever2020@creativeinvest.com. And the reason is because his first assignment was to collect information on corporate pledges to Black Lives Matter. I know that'll be a little controversial for some of the parents and others, but we're approaching it from an economic perspective. We're looking at what was going on. And so we created the first listing of that. And in an article in Black Enterprise magazine, I mentioned the number and we went over the number. It turns out that a lot of institutions were looking for that data. They were looking to see how much had been pledged. It was 1.6 billion, by the way. So the very next day or a couple of days later, 4 foundations made a pledge for 1.7 billion. So we like to say that Andrew Tabor got, Black Lives Matter, 1.7 billion. Tongue in cheek. I mean, it's true to an extent. So that is the marquee example of a meaningful internship experience. You have an assignment, you carry it out well, it's timely, it's relatable, it's something that's going on right now, and it turns out that your research makes a difference. So that's a little bit about our program. I don't know, is that enough? Does that cover kind of what? All right, very good. So any questions, comments? Yes, we're still operational. We've had just a lot of interest from potential interns all over the country. I like to say that we had 250 applications for 5 positions. And yes, coming from the AU program definitely helps. As a matter of fact, I think Mr. Tabor came in outside of our normal application process. He sent me an email and said, I'm looking for an internship. I'm with the AU program. So that'll get you into our program. So listen, thank you very much.
Thank you, William. That was a great story. I got to hear Andrew's elevator pitch a couple of weeks ago during Professional Development Day, and he didn't call himself the greatest intern ever, but he did tell us what he had been doing. So that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Diane Irving from the National Academy of Public Administration. Diane?
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me to be here. I'm excited to talk with you about our program. The Academy is a small nonprofit. It was created, it was actually congressionally chartered, and our role and mission is to help government work better. And to just, a few sentence description of that is that we primarily work with federal agencies, helping them understand and develop strategies for either addressing problems that they have, looking to the future, to strategic planning, financial management, human capital management, et cetera. But we essentially work as consultants to the government. We are not a consulting firm. We are an organization of fellows. And the fellows essentially volunteer to work with us on studies that we are awarded to help us, again, identify issues and develop strategies for organizations to work better, for public administration to work better. So we are an important part of the way our organization works, and the culture of our organization is around the fact that we have over 900 fellows, and these are people who are leaders in public administration. Many of the names you would know because they've headed up government agencies, they've headed up states, they have, so they're elected officials, they are from academia, but they are all noted persons in public administration. And that's important, not only in terms of the way we work, but also the appeal that we have to our interns, because we're looking for interns who are interested in, at some point in their careers, having some role in public service. So, so we look for students who are majoring in political science or political policy or economics, et cetera, but have some interest in public service in some way. And the thing I'll say to you about our organization is that, again, we're a small organization, but everyone in the organization is committed to the development of our interns. It's not, any of our interns can walk into our president's office. And as we're in a virtual world, every intern has met our president individually. Every intern can walk into anyone's office, but in a virtual world, we have scheduled our interns to meet with senior leadership in our organization. Any intern can get to know anybody in the organization because they can do that at the happy hours that we have. But we actually have an internal development program aside from what AU offers. We will interview and this is beyond what I'm doing, but once we've accepted interns into our program, we will survey them to understand what they are looking for in terms of the benefits they want to get from the internship, and we will then design a specific internship program for them. They have the opportunity to work with our study teams. Our study teams are small teams that have 5 to 6 people in them, but they may be working with, they'll be working with not only the internal folks in the study team, and this is an intimate team, obviously, but they will also be working with our fellows who, once again, are people who are currently active or recently retired, typically from some very high level position, either in the government, with a consulting firm. These are people who can talk to the president whenever they want to. So these are the kinds of people our interns get to know. I can tell you that some of our interns have had the opportunity to work on projects where their names were included as authors of something that was published that, either we're distributing or has been distributed within the industry. We are very serious about our interns in terms of really giving them exposure to the work that we do, helping them understand our organization and how our organization is impactful in making our government work better and our country work better. And it sounds kind of, hokey a little bit, but that's what we do. That's what we're serious about. And we are looking for interns to walk away saying, this is something I never thought about. And, here's an opportunity for me to really do service in a different way other than working directly with the government. We're not, and this is not to say we're looking to hire all of our interns, but we certainly have hired some, but that's beside the point. But we want them to be exposed to this other area of opportunity to provide public service. So, I won't go on much beyond that. But once again, to reiterate, coming into our organization would be coming into an organization that is serious about our responsibility to interns, and we fully engage with the interns. They do not feel like they're a separate member of the organization. and our interns consistently walk away and give us feedback that they've had a rewarding experience with us.
Thank you. That's just an amazing story of accessibility and opportunity for students who intern with you. And that's what we've heard as well in feedback from students. So thank you. Now we're going to hear from Garnet Robbins-Bauman with A Just Future.
I'm Garnet Robbins-Bauman, and it's Just Future project, but that's okay. So we are the exact opposite of everything you've heard so far. We don't have a brick and mortar building. We are a small grassroots organization. We're an all-volunteer organization. We've hosted about 9 interns total in the 3.5 years that we've been in existence. Having said that, our interns are really special people and incredibly special to us because they're actually working members of our team. We have been able to do an incredible amount in a very short period of time because of our interns, specifically from American University, and they've had all sorts of experiences. We believe as an organization, and I'll leave that to you to investigate who we are, but we believe that no one is guilty of a future imaginary crime, and I'll leave you with that. We are extremely relevant with what's going on in the world today, and perhaps controversial because of that. Our internships aren't for everybody. We try to tailor our students' desires, needs, their hopes, and their hopes for their future with the work that's available, which is immense and always expanding. They are never left to their own devices, but we are almost 100% virtual. In fact, we joined a centuries-old club off of DuPont Circle so we could have a brick and mortar presence to go to occasionally. So we are mostly virtual. But having said that, everyone's required pretty much all the days that they're working with us. We have a staff meeting at 10 a.m. Everybody has their assignments. Everyone knows what they're doing. We have a director of research. We have a director of communications, and myself, the director of advocacy, that work with our interns. And they've had some incredible, amazing experiences. We have them and allow them to put their names on their product, and their product stays and is available. So as they move on with school life, whatever they do in the future, they have something to take with them and to show. And we've had some amazing experiences with our interns moving on to Capitol Hill, to Internship of a very large law firm in New York City. They've gone on to do all sorts of things. They've transferred schools as a result of some of the experiences they've had with us. They've been able to do all sorts of things. As I said, we've had 9. So we don't have a huge track record as some of these other organizations, but they are very much a part of the Just Future family. And some of the experiences they've had, one of our interns this summer with AU wants to be a on-camera news personality as he finishes school. And so and something happened, and he had the opportunity real time to speak to the wife of someone that was there. We deal with people that are incarcerated, or the concepts. We're not a direct service organization, we're a policy organization. But having said that, he was able to interview people. He was able to interview the state police, the local police, to find out what was happening, to write an article about it. And you can go to our website and see that. And I apologize, I thought I turned the phones off. In the virtual world, you'd think I'd know by now. But anyway, there's not much I can do. I apologize. Let's see, where was I? They always have access. Our students always have access. And I think they will tell you. The other intern this summer, and I do apologize, was able to, we identified an issue that was an upcoming problem with human rights. And she was able to do the research, write a 2-pager, which is a policy paper She has a foreshortened version of that with her name on it that's on our site now. It's being mailed out to institutions around the country so people understand and know their rights. We are, Just Future Project has been, is going to be part of the United Nations Crime Congress in Kyoto, Japan this year. And we are speaking on human rights and incarceration, and specifically incarcerating people for what they might do in the future, which is happening in the United States. And because of that, they are helping us put that together. So there's incredible, meaningful work. We adore our interns. They really are a part of us. I don't know what else to say unless you want to ask me a question.
Thank you. I apologize for mangling all your names today. That sounds like some incredible work, incredible opportunities for students with the Just Future Project. Now we're going to hear from John Sherwood from Naval History and Heritage Command.
Thank you. My name is John Sherwood, and I'm with the Naval History and Heritage Command. And what we do is, our agency is involved in writing the official history of the Navy. We have 13 naval museums. We have an archive. We have a library. We have a large underwater archaeology department. So that's what we do. Let me just begin by telling you my favorite intern story. About 10 years ago, I had an intern from Germany, and he really took a shine to the work that we do and naval history. Long story short, he went back to Germany, got his PhD in not military history, actually security studies, and then was hired to be the director of one of Germany's leading defense think tanks. And 2 years ago, I applied for a Fulbright US Scholar grant to do some research in Europe. And my host institution ended up being his think tank, and he was my supervisor for last year. So sometimes the bottom rail ends up on the top, and you never know. And I have a lot of other stories about interns ending up in strange places. But one of them, I was at the Kennedy Center and attending a concert with a guest orchestra, and she was in the orchestra. But what I do with my interns is I try to give them a research experience, and research is something one can do independently. And right now, I've been doing a lot of interviews, so I have my interns transcribe the interviews, listen to the interviews, abstract them, and also participate. And I always like to have interns writing something, so they learn the writing process. I also like to introduce interns to the federal government, the ins and outs, the good, the bad, and the ugly, how to carve out a career in the federal government, what are the various ways in, and how to sort of chart a course in the federal government. I'm also a big, as a Fulbrighter, I'm a big proponent of fellowships and study abroad programs. So I like to encourage my interns to apply for those types of things. And in fact, this intern, who was my boss in Europe, I received a phone call a couple months ago from the chairman of the political science department at the Naval Academy. And they want to have him come to be, I think, the second or third McCain Fulbright visiting professor in naval science at the Naval Academy. So I look forward to again seeing him and hopefully getting to coming to his class and perhaps being a guest lecturer. So you never know. My interns, many of them end up in the federal government, many of them end up in the military, but many end up doing very different things as well, like the young woman who ended up as a classical musician and a composer. She's a noteworthy young composer. So that's all that I have to say.
Some amazing networking stories there, John. Thank you. Now we're going to open it up for Q&A from our attendees here. And I'm going to turn it over to Marissa Whitaker to coordinate those. So please put your questions in the chat, and Marissa will direct them where they need to go.
Thank you, Terrell. While we're waiting for some questions, I thought perhaps it would be a good idea to go around to our employers here and ask, what do you think the most important skill is for virtual internships? To succeed at a virtual internship? Diane, do you want to start?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Just in terms of the skills that an intern has to have in order to be a good intern, you have to have good writing and research skills. But in terms of kind of a virtual, I mean, just a personal quality, I would also say is that you really do need to be self-motivated. As much as we really try to wrap our hands around our interns and all staff. I mean, working in a virtual environment is a different approach to working, and you have to care for staff in a different way. But you do have to be able to keep yourself focused and motivated so that you are not distracted by, you know, the lack of you have to kind of create your own order and create your own schedule and be able to stick to that in order to be successful when you don't have people readily available to you to kind of help in that motivation process.
And this is Bill Cunningham. I'll jump in on that. You know, because I think it's a very interesting question. I was thinking about that last week. It turns out that the skills you need to be a successful remote intern are the same that you need to be a successful live intern, which is looking for opportunities to do stuff that's helpful. Hey, I can do that, you know, or hey, I was thinking about that. That's one of the absolute key. And that gets to what Ms. Irving just said. I mean, basically what they're doing is they're self-identifying and self-motivating. So that's what I would say.
Well, I can add to that, flexibility, I think, is very important, and the ability to be flexible, to act in the moment. And two examples of that was the opportunity where there was an incident and the article was written. Our intern just picked up the phone and went with it, had a plan. We gave him the contacts, and the rest of it he went to do. He put together, again, he wants to be an on-camera personality, so he put together our first YouTube video that we've made ourselves, and that's our testimony we just made. He came with us to virtually to a human rights committee in Virginia, and then we filmed, and he put that together. But again, this is the flexibility part for a virtual internship. He made it to the staff meeting the other day to tell us that the power had been taken out by a very bad storm. He's in another part of the country. And his phone didn't charge, his computer didn't charge, and he was going to virtually be offline because they weren't promising electric back to them. And again, it's the pandemic, so you're not going to go down to Starbucks. And so we were like, fine, he's now the last part of his internship. He's going to be the on-camera personality. He's writing scripts. So today's your first script writing day. You can do that with pen and paper. And off he went. So flexibility, I think, is an important skill. And it's something you learn about yourself when you're put in the moment.
I would say that an intern shouldn't be shy to have a meeting, pick up the phone, use Zoom, whatever, to tell me how they feel. Are they enjoying the internship? Is the work too boring? Some of the work that I need done can be boring. So I need to know that so I can make the work more interesting and diverse and challenging for the intern. And I liked what Mr. Cunningham said about being sort of a self-starter and motivated to jump on an opportunity when they see it. I had an intern last semester. She's an ROTC, and I got a call from a friend who works for the Army Chief of Staff, worked for Mark Milley, and he said, I need an intern immediately. And I said, Amy, just go, just do it. You can come back and work for me later. And she ended up working for the Army Chief of Staff, who was an ROTC and appreciated ROTC. And she got to attend a meeting with the current Secretary of Defense, who was then Secretary of the Army at the time. And I think that led to her being selected to jump school. And she was the first cadet from her unit in 3 years to attend jump school at Fort Benning, and she got her jump wings. And now she's cadet commander of her of the unit at the University of Maryland. So you just never know. But just being open to different things and being honest with me as to how things are going, that's very helpful.
Great.
Could I just add one more thing?
Of course.
I would say also for folks who are interning and to make it work remotely, your superpower is your ability to use technology and use that. Because if I'm in a room with you, even if there are 10 people in a room, I can get information from a quick glance, a gesture immediately, and I can respond to you in that way. It doesn't happen as well remotely. So use the technology, teach the people you are working for how to use the technology, chat with us, all the things that you would do with your friends. Feel confident enough to say, I'm not quite sure I understood that. Come up with some way that you're comfortable communicating with people to get information, because that you have to use the technology to make up for the distance. So use that and help us to help you, and understand that technology is not perfect. So you need to use it to speak up and let us know what you're thinking, and let us know your ideas and ask questions and learn. We're doing the best that we can to make it a positive experience, but help us help you. So don't be afraid, don't be shy. As all of these people have said, really don't be shy, but understand that it's different when it's remote. So use your superpower to help us be better directors of the projects, managers of the programs, so that we can help you be successful.
Thank you all. That's really fantastic insight. All right, Amy, we actually have a couple questions for you now. The first question, somebody asked, when do the internships start? Can they begin before classes, or do they start at the beginning of the fall semester?
Yeah, great question. So typically fall internships begin on or around September 9th, and they will happen if a student is here in DC and has some occasion to be face-to-face, they would be here through Thanksgiving. And then internships wrap up the first week of December. So again, summarize early September through December. Once in a while, an employer and a student might work it out where they would together decide to do a little informal, I would call it kind of a volunteer experience in the early days. So we're not going to stand in the way when an employer and a student want to get proactive for a very early placement. I love that the motivation and enthusiasm that signals, but again, I still want to underline the importance of this is an academic program where students are earning credit, and our internship professors are overseeing the learning. And there's so many benefits to this assignment and the dates and the way that we're scaling this for all students in our program. So again, this tends to be an academic internship that lasts roughly 12 weeks during the academic semester. Great question. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Another question for you. Speaking of the internship advisor, the AU faculty member that works with our students, somebody asked if the student is 100% remote, what does that interaction with their advisor look like in a remote setting?
Yeah, great question. So at AU, we have devised guidelines for the internship site supervisors as well as the faculty and students. And all three parties agree during the first week or two of the program what precisely that interaction will look like. In fact, this is the real lifeblood of internships. And so we focus a lot on this, and we ensure that there's regular interaction between supervisors, students, and then the internship faculty. I'm also there, by the way, as an additional resource. My colleagues in our focus unit that are 100% behind experiential education are also there supporting. But at a minimum, supervisors and students would exchange interaction in a Zoom and certainly via emails and calls and whatever the established protocols are. At a minimum, at least once a week. It could be too that employers and students are in a more regular chat. It does vary, but the mode of communication depends on what the students and the supervisors are more comfortable with. When it comes to the academic component, often our professors are using Blackboard or Collaborate. Essentially, they're using some cutting edge software to ensure that students are engaged. And at AU, our Center for Teaching, Research, and Learning has some really fun exercises. It could be that students are doing a Kahoot quiz to review some of the protocols and ideas, for example, on methods for networking. And so we're using some of the best tools and technology to engage students, to train them and make sure that they're focused and paying attention. One of the questions I hear from students regularly is, all right, so I need to take initiative, but can you give me suggestions on how to do that? In the classes, the internship faculty members debrief with students and pick that apart and say, all right, so tell me, let's look back at your assignments and what are some of the ways that you can take initiative, for example? So interaction is at the heart of our professional development, and students get a true immersive experience. While many internships are these days virtual, again, the interaction is very regular and structured from AU.
Great, thank you, Amy. And one more, you're on a roll. Somebody asked, has the application process in and of itself changed for students due to COVID-19? Can you talk about how that's...
I love that question. Thanks. This is what I'm very focused on, helping fall students land. My short answer to that is what is old is new again. And that means that the way to land an internship is through professionalism, persistence, and politeness, the 3 Ps of searching. So these days I'm providing some online sessions. I just held one last evening at 9 p.m. I have a couple later this week at 4 p.m. where I'm coaching students individually and sometimes in small groups to talk about the strategies. So we'll parlay from our network, including folks who are here on the line right now with us, as well as hundreds of others in our network. And I talk to students about the best way to approach, because sometimes it does take a little finesse, and then we're there to be the mentors guiding students along the way. But in COVID-19, bottom line, it has taken some more persistence. In general, persistence is the way to land an internship. And then I coach students in the specific ways on how to get gritty and how to get persistence when it comes to that actual follow-up and the way that students are locking in the placement that they desire.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, unless we have any further questions, I might turn this back over to you, Adam. You're on mute.
I'm on mute. I just want to wrap up by thanking our employers here for their time. We know your time is valuable, and thank you also for engaging with American University. We couldn't do this without you, and it's just wonderful to see how much you've benefited our students over the years, and we really look forward to sending you more great students. And also to the attendees, you know, just a reminder, the whole world is changing literally right under our fingertips right now. And this is a very difficult time, and hopefully we've been able to help you look into the future a little bit and look at some skills that you think would be important for you. I do encourage you, if you're thinking about doing one of our programs, or if you are doing one, when you start looking into the future and it gets hazy, just take a deep breath and say, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to make things work, and I'm going to be just fine. And so hopefully today has just been a little way into the future, and please keep an eye out for more of these webinars that we're putting together to try and help you map out what the fall looks like and beyond. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for doing a wonderful job today. And please be in touch again if you are interested in one of our programs for the fall.
And I'd just like to say thank you, and also that we will have students talking about their internships this afternoon at 5 p.m. if you'd like to tune in for that and get the other side of the story. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.